someone wanted me to look into what good Henry VIII actually did as King of England, and I'm actually loving this question. So by the time he died in January 1547, Henry VIII had become this obese, temperamental monster. His reputation was that of a brute with blood on his hands for the many executions that he ordered, as well as the beheading of 2 of his wives. His lavish lifestyle, the epic corruption of selling of church lands, and his aggressive foreign policy had brought the kingdom to a point of bankruptcy. He replaced gold coins with copper ones in the last few years of his reign, and he was just a barefaced fraud, really. But what did he actually do that was good? Let's look into it. Although he didn't mean for it to happen the way it did, Henry did place England at the centre of European politics. And what I mean with not having planned it that way was that in 1513 he actually waged war on France. And when that basically failed, that's when he chose to sign a peace treaty, known as the Universal and Perpetual Peace Treaty with France. To celebrate, of course, they had the Great Field of Cloth of Gold, and this led to placing England firmly at the centre of European politics, rather than being regarded as this rain-swept island at the edge of the known world. So, that was good. Henry was also really interested in medicine, and in 1518 he actually turned his attention to the medical profession. And up until that point, apothecaries and physicians had practiced without any real regulation, where scammers offered medical services to desperate people. And Henry actually changed this. By royal decree, he established what would become the Royal College of Physicians, and he followed that up with an Act of Parliament which remains in force today. And this now granted licenses to those who were qualified to practice, and had the ability to punish those who did practice without being allowed to do so, as well as introducing the first standards of malpractice. And this was the first step to dragging medicine away from superstition and setting on the path of it becoming a scientific pursuit. So he gets a thumbs up for that too. We also have Henry to thank for maritime development, of course, and it was he who launched an astonishing campaign to map the whole coastline of England. And it was he who conceived England as a single mass of land to be protected and turned into a defensible island by building forts along the south coast, many of which he also designed himself, and also by establishing a powerful navy. Previous fleets had actually been quite tiny in comparison to Henry VIII's Royal Navy. Henry's impact on English culture was also really profound. He patronized some of the best artists of the time, and arts and architecture flourished under his reign. And it was actually under Henry, not Elizabeth I, that the great art forms of sonnet and verse were created. But it is perhaps Henry VIII's break with papal authority for which he's best known. And the break from Rome is arguably what gave England a sense of national identity. So there you have it. Who would have thought Henry VIII actually did some good for England? If you want to find out more about Henry VIII and his wives, his children, his wars, his politics, you should read my books The Saddest Princess, The Haunted Queen, The Puppet King, and The Forgotten Prince, which follow the lives of 4 of his children.